So then how soon after did you guys get married?
I was up in Boothbay Harbor, Maine, doing the movie. And, you know, because I said to him, "You're married." He said, "I know, but I'm getting a divorce." I was in Boothbay Harbor. That's when it took so many months to make movies, you know. And I was there for, I think, 6 months. Every day he'd call me. And finally he called me, he said, "I'm divorced." I said, "You are?" And he said, "Yes." He said, "As soon as you get back," he said, "you know, we'll get married." Well, I was there for about 9 months. I came back, and we both got into a show together. What was it now? It was done on the Harvard campus in Massachusetts, at the theater there. You know, it was a wonderful production. It was I can't think of the name of it now. Anyway, when we were there, he said, "We're going to get married here," and that's what we did. And we got married, and we had a matinee that day. We got married after the matinee. We had a show to go to that night.
How romantic.
And, yeah, I know.
Doing what you love,
exactly,
and it's all together.
Yeah.
Then he had a son, David.
That's
Cassidy,
right. He had a son, David. And I remember the day of the wedding, David called him, and his ex-wife called and was not happy about the whole thing, because David, I guess, was suffering. And it was, you know, she was very upset and all of that. And I think that in many ways, that's probably partly what caused a lot of problems with David, too, you know, because Jack was never, he was more a father to our sons than he ever was to David. He was on the road all the time. He was a young man. And, you know, and he was a ladies' man, as we well know when you read the book. So, you know, and I think that was a part of the problem, even with David, you know, because David was a very sensitive young boy. Very sensitive. And when we did Partridge, he couldn't have been nicer to work with. I adored David. I mean, and he was great with his brothers, too, you know, when they were little.
What a strange thing that happened, that you worked together, because
I
that
know.
wasn't coincidence, or you
No.
saying David has to take this part, or I won't do it.
No, as a matter of fact, I was the first cast in Partridge, you know. And the writers and the director came to me and said, "Shirley, how do you feel about your stepson, David Cassidy?" And I said, "Why?" They said, "Well, we're thinking about him, you know, for the role of, what is it, names I told you, I forget, anyway, the boy's role in the Partridge Family." I said, "Well, I think it'd be wonderful."
I don't remember.
I can't think of his first name in Partridge. I can't think of it. And I said, "He'd be great." He'd already done a Broadway show. And he'd already worked with Jack in a couple of things, so I knew that he was, and he sang beautifully. And I said, "I think he'd be great." And they said, "Well, good, we want to know how you feel, because we want to make sure it's okay." I said, "Of course." Well, they were going to screen test him, and I walked on the set that day. And he turned around and he saw me, and he said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "I'm your mama."
Oh, my God.
"You are?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "No." And I said, "Yes." And I said, "You're going to be great." And that's how it happened.
And he was cool with that, too.
Oh, yeah.
Because you guys were connected, yeah.
No, we were great together.